Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, and air restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
The IRS is giving a break to taxpayers affected by the January floods. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. People in flood-impacted areas are getting more time to file, and San Diego County is looking at its own solution too. KPBS reporter Jacob Ayer explains.
January storms brought severe damage to many San Diego homes and businesses, but some tax relief is on the way. IRS spokesperson Rafael Tolino said individual and business tax returns and federal tax payments are now due June 17th.
The tax relief for individuals and businesses here in San Diego County applies to the entire county, and it's basically per the designation as a presidentially declared disaster area per FEMA.
Tolino said the state of California has not yet announced a deadline extension, but in previous disasters, they've usually matched federal deadlines. San Diego County supervisors are considering another type of tax relief, deferring supplemental property tax payments.
This would apply to homes that have $10,000 more in damage, and would also apply to businesses where 20% of the value or more of that property is damaged. So that could be multifamily units. It could be commercial properties that are agricultural or also manufacturing as well.
San Diego County Assessor Jordan Marks says it can benefit both homeowners and businesses across the county. He says the goal is to give people the time and money they need to recover and rebuild.
It would take the April deadline when you make your property tax payment, and it would take it to when your permit is finalized on your reconstruction. And when that's done, then you would have 30 days to pay your property taxes.
Mark says he expects hundreds of applications and says people can already file for property tax relief with his office. If approved, the agenda item will get a second reading by the County Board of Supervisors on March 12th. Jacob Ayer, KPBS News.
Well, let's look ahead to tonight. We are dropping down to a low of 53, and we'll have a few clouds still rolling around. But with that rain, it is tapering off, and as we head into Wednesday, Thursday, we are going to be running much drier. Stay tuned, though, to see how temperatures are going to look throughout the rest of the week, when we'll see a cool down and when our next round of gusty winds and showers are set to make their way through.
It's been less than 1 week since San Diego's Migrant Welcome Center closed its doors due to its lack of funding. Now the county is looking for a long-term solution. Today, the County Board of Supervisors approved plans for a long-term migrant transfer site. They also agreed to send a letter to congressional leaders calling on them to work with President Biden to pass bipartisan immigration reform. Meanwhile, community organizations say they're doing what they can as street releases resume.
When we heard that the Migrant Center was closing, I asked there, and also again with the county, to ask what is the plan afterwards, on the 23rd, and I did not get a response. I just can't see people in the streets. I think it's disheartening to see how Border Patrol is just dropping them off.
Supervisor Joel Anderson says he also wrote President Biden to request he temporarily close the border. He says it would allow time to secure additional funding and the resources for the long-term Migrant Welcome Center. Border funding was a major focus of a closed-door meeting between President Biden and top congressional leaders today. This as the threat of a government shutdown gets closer by the day. Laura Aguirre has more.
We got to figure out how we're going to keep funding the government, which is an important problem.
It was an optimistic start to a potentially contentious meeting at the White House Tuesday. The president, along with 4 top leaders of Congress and the vice president, sat down to find solutions on a stalled government spending agreement.
This Friday, unless both sides act quickly, the federal government will enter a partial shutdown.
a partial shutdown that would immediately impact the departments of Veterans Affairs, Transportation, Housing and Urban Development, Agriculture, and Energy.
Mr. Speaker, is there going to be a government shutdown?
No, we're going to work to prevent that.
That was House Speaker Mike Johnson ahead of the meeting, confident, despite refusing to bring a recently passed Senate foreign aid bill to the floor of his chamber. The Senate bill includes aid for Ukraine, a key sticking point for many Republicans.
I think the consequences of inaction every day in Ukraine are dire.
Leaders emerged from the White House after the meeting with advances made on key points.
The meeting on Ukraine was one of the most intense I have ever encountered in my many meetings in the Oval Office. The four of us made it so clear how vital this was to the United States.
We had an open, an honest, and a candid, firm discussion about the border. We all agree that we have a broken immigration system.
We're very optimistic. We believe that we can get to agreement on these issues and prevent a government shutdown.
An agreement they have just over 3 days to reach. I'm Laura Aguirre for KPBS News.
The Chula Vista City Council has made it official at last night's meeting. The City Council seat for District 4 is now vacant after the resignation of Andre Cardenas amid charges of fraud. Some voters say they do not want the council to appoint a replacement for her, preferring her seat remain vacant until the end of the year when they can elect a new member.
The community deserves to pick who they want to represent them. We don't need someone who's just going to come in for a few months, try to get up to speed, doesn't know what's going on.
The City Council is required to make a, quote, good faith best effort to fill Cardenas' seat before April 11th. That appointee would serve until December when an elected council member takes over. Early voting is underway in San Diego County. KPBS reporter Melissa May checked in with the registrar of voters, who says about 45 to 50% of voters showed up to the polls so far.
Hundreds of San Diego County voters have cast their ballots in person since the first voting centers opened Saturday.
We do still see approximately 10% of the people that do turn out to vote do like to go to the vote centers, so we'd like providing that additional option of all of those vote centers.
Assistant Registrar of Voters Sean Brom says vote centers are staffed with bilingual poll workers.
Spanish, Filipino, Vietnamese, and Chinese, those are located at all of the vote centers throughout the county as best we can. And then there are select precincts that have the other targeted state and county covered languages, and those are the Arabic, Japanese, Korean, Laotian, Somali, and Persian.
Brom says most county voters cast their ballots by mail.
We've mailed out over 1.9 million vote by mail ballots, and most people do take advantage of the convenience of voting at home and dropping it off in the mail or any of our 146 ballot drop box locations.
If you're a registered voter but don't have access to your mail-in ballot anymore, you can go to any vote center and cast your ballot. And you can even register to vote all the way up until Election Day. Brom recommends going to a vote center near you, even if you lost your identification.
We'll look to see if that individual voted in California, and once the eligibility is determined, the registration will be processed, and then that vote will be cast. So again, you're registering conditionally and then voting provisionally.
Starting Saturday, all 218 county vote centers will be open daily from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. On Election Day, all vote centers, ballot drop-off boxes, and the registrar's office will be open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Melissa May, KPBS News.
Right now, a three-way race is underway for one of San Diego's most diverse districts. As we continue our election coverage, we take a look at the San Diego City Council race for the District 9 seat. That's coming up in a few minutes.
I'm Amna Nawaz. Tonight on the NewsHour, congressional leaders meet President Biden to negotiate a spending deal and try to avoid a government shutdown. That's coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
The Sempra earnings report released this morning caused a stir among advocates lobbying to replace San Diego Gas and Electric with a municipal utility. KPBS environment reporter Eric Anderson says the shareholders report didn't itemize SDG&E's profit.
84-year-old Essie Baradar doesn't have much good to say when she opens her utility bill each month.
I've heard what they do. They don't do anything for San Diego. They only profit.
She was among a group protesting Sempra Energy's latest financial report. They were hoping to talk about subsidiary San Diego Gas and Electric's profits. But for the first time in decades, those numbers were grouped together with another Sempra subsidiary, Southern California Gas. Sempra California earned just over $1.7 billion in profits in 2023.
It's a safe bet that they may have earned $1 billion or nearly $1 billion from SDG&E overall, and probably close to $450 million from SDG&E operations in San Diego.
SDG&E actually had a profit of $936 million last year. That's $21 million more than the profit they made in 2022.
In many other cases, when businesses use city land, have a franchise to use city land, we take a share of the profits. We don't do that with SDG&E, but we at least have a right to know you're charging the highest or nearly the highest rates in the nation. How much profit are you making from SDG&E?
Sempra officials say they told shareholders 3 months ago they would be simplifying their earnings reports, and they say their utilities still file the appropriate papers with the Securities and Exchange Commission. In a statement, Sempra said, "Cost inflation is impacting customers from the gas station to the grocery store, and we are focused on doing our part to help affordability for consumers. Our utility subsidiaries are focused on delivering solutions to customers, including shareholder-funded assistance programs and income-qualified bill discounts for those with financial hardships." The company says it works hard to meet the needs of more than 25 million utility customers in Southern California. Eric Anderson, KPBS News.
The Consumer Confidence Index is out today, and it shows more Americans are feeling less confident about the economy. February's index fell on concerns of rising gas prices and the jobs market. But Amy Kiley has an alternative. How do you feel about your grocery bill?
The Consumer Confidence Index is out today, but a simpler measure of how Americans feel about the economy might be a trip to the supermarket.
Families still had to put food on the table in the face of a food price surge.
Wage growth isn't making up for historically high prices completely. A new report shows record U.S. credit card debt in the fourth quarter of last year. It's not as bad when adjusted for inflation, and that inflation is cooling. But in the meantime, Kellogg's is now advertising cereal as a dinner food.
If you think about the cost of cereal for a family versus what they might otherwise do, that's going to be much more affordable.
And with a lawsuit filed yesterday, the Federal Trade Commission is trying to block the largest supermarket merger in American history. Kroger and Albertsons say uniting would offset the cost of their unionized workforces. The FTC argues the deal would reduce competition and raise food prices. Its suit could be a follow-up to a campaign promise.
There are still too many corporations in America ripping people off. Price gouging, junk fees, greedflation, shrinkflation.
I'm Amy Kiley reporting.
We know now some of the changes coming to FAFSA. The Department of Education announced the first update today, which involves how the department calculates the amount of aid students will get. Under the new approach, 7.3 million students are expected to be eligible for Pell Grants. The department is also going to send support personnel to lower resource colleges to do needs assessments and help schools with student aid offer packages. Tomorrow, Senate Democrats will try to pass legislation to protect in vitro fertilization, or IVF. This comes after Alabama's Supreme Court ruled frozen embryos are children, leaving many concerned about being held liable for wrongful death if they destroy them. In a press conference today, Democratic senators called on lawmakers to pass the bill unanimously, as just one objection could kill the bill. In response, Alabama's Attorney General says he has no intention of prosecuting IVF families or providers. Have scientists at the Salk Institute discovered a birth control pill for men? KPBS SciTech reporter Thomas Fudge tells us about a study and the treatment of mice that stopped their sperm production.
Sperm production in mammals relies on a network of genes and proteins that line up and interact in a certain way. But what if you blocked or inhibited one of the elements on that assembly line? That's what scientists at Salk have done, injecting mice with an HDAC inhibitor that stops a crucial genetic coupling. They say doing this prevents sperm production, has no effect on libido, and if the mice go off the pill for a couple of months, fertility returns. This 4-panel photo shows tissue where sperm is stored in mice. In the upper right, you can see sperm eliminated by the Salk treatment. In the lower right, you can see sperm production is restored soon after treatment has ended. Salk Institute professor Ronald Evans says they had to fully understand that genetic network that produces sperm to arrive at their findings.
I think that's one of the most important parts is uncovering the nature of the network and finding that the network is open to therapeutic intervention.
The Salk research could lead to a male birth control pill. Evans says experiments will move from mice to larger mammals and ultimately to clinical trials for humans. Thomas Fudge, KPBS News.
San Diego's District 9 is arguably the most diverse district in the city, encompassing wealthy neighborhoods like Kensington and financially challenged areas like City Heights. It's currently represented by Sean Elo Rivera, but as KPBS reporter John Carroll tells us, 2 challengers are looking to replace him.
Democrat Sean Elo Rivera has represented District 9 since 2020. This time around, he's facing Democrat Terry Hoskins and Independent Fernando Garcia.
I would understand why any constituent and any person living in the city would say that we're not doing well enough.
We spoke with Elo Rivera from a park in the Stockton neighborhood of his district. It was days after the torrential, damaging storm of January 22nd, and the destruction that brought to neighborhoods in his district was very much on his mind.
We have, I think, way more people than folks realize who are picking up the pieces or trying to pick up the pieces. And I think we have a legitimate disaster in the southern part of the city, and that's going to need to be a top priority as well.
Elo Rivera makes it clear that advocating for people who struggle to get by is his top priority. That means finding solutions to homelessness is at the top of the list.
And with that means that housing is also, my top priority. Those 2 issues go hand in hand. You cannot separate homelessness from housing.
Currently, our current city council lacks leadership, specifically in District 9.
His opposition to how Elo Rivera does his job aside, Independent Fernando Garcia agrees with the incumbent about what he sees as the district's most pressing issue.
I would say homelessness, and then also housing or development. In terms of homelessness, I feel like, a lot of people feel that we have a policy of enablement as opposed to empowerment, meaning that the streets should not be an option when it comes to people being unhoused.
Garcia left his career in financial services and real estate in 2017 when he formed a company called School Solar, which specializes in getting solar panels onto school roofs. He says his business and real estate background will help in tackling homelessness, specifically through the use of ADUs, sometimes known as granny flats.
If somebody builds an ADU for $250,000, what we could do is we can exempt that from their property tax, so they don't pay for that additional property tax they would get hit, as long as they agree to rent it at affordable rates. So it's an incentive to the homeowner, not these big builders or developers.
I've been serving the needs of the community members of District 9 for the past 14 and a half years. As a San Diego police officer.
Dr. Terry Hoskins did 25 years in the Marine Corps before becoming a San Diego police officer in 2008. He recently retired from the force. Hoskins says he wants to continue serving the public on the city council, where he says his top priority would be public safety.
This current administration for District 9 doesn't even talk to our law enforcement at all. I will change that.
Both Hoskins and Garcia say they agree with council members who've criticized Elo Rivera's leadership as council president. He was recently reelected to the position by his fellow council members, but only by one vote.
Majority of the community that I interact with at all the community meetings, all the planning group meetings, they feel like they've got no representation since Marty Emwood left.
Even in District 9, he's really, alienating a lot of neighborhoods here by not showing up to meetings or, just being dismissive of their concerns.
Elo Rivera says since being reelected to the council presidency, he has reached out to all his colleagues on the council for their thoughts on how they can all work better together. But he says that doesn't mean governing the city the way it's been governed in the past. The top two finishers in the primary will face each other in November's general election. John Carroll, KPBS News.
And we have more about the upcoming election on our website. The KPBS Voter Hub is where you'll find Q&As with candidates, as well as information on how and where you can cast your ballot. Just go to kpbs.org/voterhub.
Well, let's start you off with your weather headlines, what you need to know as we head into the middle and end of the week. Well, we are much drier Wednesday and Thursday, so if you do have any outdoor plans, these are the day to do so. Weekend cool down, though, is on the way as temperatures are going to start to take a drop. And with that, that's because we have our next storm, some gusty winds and showers on tap as we head throughout the weekend as well. But as for tonight, again, that rain, that's overall isolated shower situation that we were seeing throughout our Tuesday starting to taper off. We don't really have too much to be concerned about as we head into tonight. From Oceanside 48, San Diego 53. Now Ramona, you're dropping down to a low of 42, Borrego Springs 50, and Mount Laguna 36. As we head into tomorrow, well, highs will rise, still pretty mild for the day in the mid 60s there along the coast, upper 60s as you move a little bit further inland, and even pushing the 70s there in Borrego Springs, Mount Laguna with a high of 43. Now, I do want to take you over these next few days to show you the shakeup that we're going to have when it comes to our weather pattern. And again, like I said, mostly sunny. These are going to be the days to get outside. If you do have any plans, 67 on tap for Wednesday, Thursday there along the coast with a high of 65. Though those temperatures will drop slightly along the coast as we head into the weekend, as we are talking about our next round of showers and gusty winds. Highs are going to be dropping down to the low 60s there. Areas further inland, you'll also see a slight cool down. I mean, where we're in the 70s almost on Wednesday, flirting with 70. Thursday, you're at 66. You're going to be dropping down to the low 60s there by Saturday, so much cooler with rain on the way. And again, like I said, it is going to be quite windy, especially as you head closer towards the mountains. Increasingly Wednesday by Friday. And look at that temperature drop. Thursday, we're at 44, 34 by Saturday. And we even could still see some wintry precipitation and ice at night by the end of the weekend. Rain and drizzle still on tap for the deserts as well. That will also bring temperatures back down to the mid 60s as we head into the weekend. For KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Bree Guy.
And you can get the latest from KPBS News delivered to your inbox. Breaking news, arts, and our top headlines are all available as newsletters. Our newest offering is North County Focus, offering a quick recap of the big stories happening in the North County, as well as a roundup of everything happening in the region. You can sign up for any of our newsletters at kpbs.org. Well, San Diego gained another food truck today, but this one will soon be run by high school students, cooking with lessons in how to run a business. KPBS education reporter MG Perez shows us the big reveal.
3, 2, 1, reveal the truck!
It's a fiesta for a food truck. This one's been under wraps for a while. Named the Sunset Bites, this state-of-the-art kitchen on wheels was designed by and will be operated with the talent and ambition of culinary students in the San Diego Unified School District. The Intuit company paid for the truck and is partnered with the district to provide work-based learning.
Oh, I am definitely excited.
17-year-old Tyga Pangilinan is a senior at Morse High School with a dad who is Pacific Islander and a mom who is Japanese. He's ready to cook.
My family loves to cook with Spam, and I love to cook it too. We like to make Spam musubi with it. And then with my mom's side, if I get the chance, I like to make ramen.
More than 300 culinary students came to the ribbon-cutting ceremony this afternoon, not only to learn more about the district's college, career, and technical education programs, but to be inspired by those who have already found success.
Think as your career in terms of resiliency. So just because you failed in one area doesn't mean you're not going to succeed in another.
This food truck is a classroom on the move. Just like in the real business world, food trucks don't stay put. This one will travel to 5 high schools with culinary programs over the school year. The Sunset Bites should be permitted and prepared for students in about a month. Until then, San Diego has plenty of other options for learning and lunch.
I think that idea of being able to bring something so real to students that they're going to actually be able to be participants in operating and running the food truck is a really exciting thing for them.
Coming soon, a special dish of Spam and ramen.
If they do come afterwards and tell me like the food was great, that's what makes me happy. That's what makes me feel like I accomplished what I was meant to do.
Order up. MG Perez, KPBS News.
What a terrific project. Well, here is a look at what we're working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom. NPR's Morning Edition will have the presidential primary results from the key battleground state of Michigan. And KPBS Midday Edition is talking about electric vehicles and what people should know if they're considering buying one. And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Good night.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, and air restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.